Welcome back to Jeff and the Rabbi. No more watching reruns of earlier seasons. We are back and live and in person. Yes, I'm excited, probably as excited as you are. So anyway, way back in the olden days of Jews, 24,000 students of the great Rabbi Akiva died in a plague. Well, that sucks. But why are we talking about it today? We understand that these poor disciples of the rabbi all died due to their lack of respect for each other. Whew. God was a lot tougher back in those days. I mean, if we were held to those standards today, the earth would definitely be a lot less crowded. There would be unquestionably less squabbling parents at your son's Little League game. We would probably have a continual search for new talent to replace the old disappearing matrons on The View. And even the attendance at the St. Pius of the Righteous School for Refined Young Ladies Debutante Ball would probably be slim at best. That's what I'm saying. But still, why is it so important for us Hebrews to always commemorate these type of sad events? You know, and this is a fact right here, I looked this up. Religious Jews fast more often than puffy sorority sophomores 3 weeks before spring break. It's a fact. I checked it out. I checked it out. And what about poor Rabbi Akiva? He lost his entire legacy in 1 month. Did he wallow in his own tormented Talmudic torture? Nope. This amazing optimist picked up where he left off and started all over again, never questioning God for this horrific tragedy. Today, if somebody steals our parking spot, we tear our clothing and put on sackcloth and ashes. How can the Almighty be so cruel? Yep. You might be asking, Rabbi, what can we learn from Akiva in this whole calamity? Well, I'm certainly not a rabbi, but we have a perfectly good one sitting right here.
Hey.
So maybe he can answer those questions for us.
Enter stage left. All right.
Yes.
Wow.
Good segue?
Oh, thank you. It's
Yes.
beautiful, beautiful. This is
Good.
never cease to amaze me.
Oh, thank you. Myself either. I never cease to amaze
Right,
myself.
right.
Yes.
By the way, is that collection of all of these intros, is that like coming out yet? Is it
It's gonna come out and probably on Kindle, maybe a Kindle
Right.
version soon. I don't know
Right.
if we can make it to paperback.
you can do the
version.
top 10?
Oh,
the greatest,
absolutely.
you know,
Absolutely.
it's for sure. It's something that needs to be
Definitely. But
archived
the
and,
fans are kind of they're waiting for it to come out
Right,
patiently.
Right. I can also see, by the way, like a T-shirt line with like great quotes from it and all kinds of stuff. Mugs,
We can do that.
coffee mugs,
Definitely the coffee
with great
mugs.
quotes. You know,
Yeah, a little
Jeff
more.
says.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
Wow.
Kiddush cups. We're doing the whole thing.
Kiddush
It's
cups.
big.
yeah. So Rabbi Akiva. So here we are. We're counting the Omer. So we are observing this sort of mild form of mourning. Some people are not shaving. Even people with beards shave a little bit.
I
So
shave.
some of us are not shaving, not having weddings, not listening to live music. Those are primarily the three forms or customs that are observed during this period of time for 33 days.
Right.
The reasons specifically for 33 days, as you said, Rabbi Akiva, this is from the Talmud. The Talmud says that Rabbi Akiva had 12,000 pairs of students. That's kind of significant, by the way.
I never heard of
We'll
that
get
one.
back to that in a little bit, but it says they had 12,000 pairs of students, which means 24,000. They were located between Givat and Antiparas, two towns in northern Israel.
Right.
So it wasn't like they were all in like one campus or one building, but
Right.
they were in a district where I guess he had numerous buildings, or maybe they were just in a bunch of towns or something. I don't know exactly.
Right.
Hard to know exactly how academies worked when you're talking about the first century AD.
Probably was a little different than today.
Yeah,
I think.
right. So yeah, I'm not sure exactly, but they were
Fraternities, no anything like that. It was probably just straight studying. That was it.
Right. So then, sometime between Passover and the holiday of Shavuos, which is 49 days later, 7 weeks later, during 33 of those days, of those 49, the students started dying. They died a real gruesome death, some type of choking,
Oh, I
where
didn't
they
know that.
couldn't breathe, and they ultimately choked, and it was gruesome, and it was long and horrible, and they all died off. 24,000 students in 33 days. That means like 1,000 a day or something like
Now,
that.
where was Rabbi Akiva during this time? Was he there?
And there's Rabbi Akiva, right? So we presume he was there. So you have to start to think about this. This plague hits the students. It doesn't hit any of the locals.
Wow.
None of the people are dying. Just his students. They're not all in one place. They're in this area between Givas and Antipris. So it's not like they all ate the same food.
So I was going to say, it wasn't the cafeteria.
Drank out of the water or anything like that. Right? They're spread out. And the local people are not dying. It's just the students of Rabbi Akiva. Well, it sounds like God is sending Rabbi Akiva a message.
Pretty big
And
one.
it's a pretty clear message. And the students start dying and dying and dying. Dying. I mean, he's going to what's he doing? 800 funerals a day.
How much sleep?
I mean, this is the whole thing's horrible. And I'm sure they probably tried to do something about it. There was nothing they could do. Like called the CDC, nothing.
Wow.
Nothing. They died and they died and they died. And after 33 days, it stopped. And when it stopped, Rabbi Akiva, who had been the head of an academy with 24,000 students, had 0.
Life's work.
24,000 students. It was not only the greatest academy of its time, it might have been the greatest academy of all time.
Right.
I mean, what he had created was unprecedented. And this Rabbi Akiva, there's a little bit of a backstory. We know that he came from very humble beginnings. His parents were actually converts to Judaism,
Okay.
and he did not study. He was a poor man,
Right.
didn't study, couldn't even read the Hebrew language until he was 40 years old.
Wow.
So he started late, with nothing, with no advantages, no pull, no parents paying for anything. And he went on to become not only a great sage, but to build up an academy like this. He was literally like the king of the hill.
Wow.
And in 33 days,
Gone.
he lost it all. But not only did he lose it all in such a flame out fashion that anyone must have looked at and said, whoa, something is wrong here. I mean, something is seriously wrong. It's a total repudiation of Rabbi Akiva.
That's what you would think.
Wow. So, as you mentioned, it says in the Talmud, why? Because they didn't show respect to each other. Now, I noticed that it also said in the same passage in the Talmud that he had 12,000 pairs of students.
Right.
What's with 12,000 pairs? 12,000 pairs is
Your
24,000
study
students.
partner, I guess, maybe?
Yeah, so they had study partners. And why they have study partners? I mean, and they would have had study partners because it's just a practical way to do it.
Right.
But why there still are 24,000 people?
Yeah, why
Just saying 24,000
right.
people. I mean, do I need to know that they used to study in pairs? And what relevance
Right.
is that to the
Right.
story?
Right.
It's like, so, I did see a rabbi that pointed out that it says in the Talmud that they didn't show respect to each other. So it could very well have been that Rabbi Akiva understood that there was something wrong here. In this academy, there's something wrong. They're not respecting each other. And if they're studying Torah, they should be more respectful of each other. And if they're not respecting each other, the message is coming across twisted. So he had them pair up with an older student mentoring younger students to try to teach humility and care and concern and responsibility, and therefore hopefully respect for each other. It seems as though it was to no avail.
Must not have worked too well.
Did not work. Something was wrong with the way Rabbi Akiva was teaching the students. So it's a huge repudiation. It's a smack in the face from God right to Rabbi Akiva.
Not to mention the 24,000 kids.
24,000, yeah,
I know they had
right.
some issues too, but still.
Right.
Yeah, but Rabbi Akiva, totally.
But, Rabbi Akiva's the one that's still alive when it's all over.
He's got to deal with this.
So, right, how does Rabbi Akiva deal with it? So, you would think, I would think, if it was me, I'd put my tail between my legs I go off to a cave somewhere.
I'm not supposed to be teaching these kids anymore. I'm done.
I walk around just go try to live them. Who knows what?
Right.
You want to just hide. You don't want anyone to see your face. But Rabbi Akiva analyzed the situation. And the first thing Rabbi Akiva realized, which is something that people don't really realize, the first thing he realized is he was alive.
point. Good point.
24,000 died. He lived.
Some reason there.
Right? That's a message.
Yes.
That's a message because, I mean, if you're part of the academy, like I'm sure they have like rabbis and teachers, and then
Right.
like you can have he couldn't have been the sole teacher of 24,000 students, and everyone else died.
Even the janitor.
Yeah.
All that.
He survived.
Yeah. There's a message.
So, what's God telling me? So God didn't like what I was doing because He wiped it out. Well, that was pretty bad. Well, why did He keep me alive? So God didn't like what was there, but He wanted to keep Rabbi Akiva alive. This is a really important thing, an important mindset to embrace. I know I grew up with a lot of Holocaust survivors.
Right.
And I have read much about and by Holocaust survivors. And there is something that we find amongst Holocaust survivors and many other people. Survivor's guilt.
Yep. Yep.
Survivor's guilt. Like the plane goes down, all the loved ones, I walked away from it.
Right.
Sometimes even unscathed. People had horrible deaths and you saw people suffering all around them, and then this one person walked away unscathed.
Right.
It's hard to live life.
Yeah,
You feel like, what happened? My dear beloved mother, brother, sister, whatever it was, who were, so much, and then you start to look at yourself and go like, I'm such a scum, and here my sainted
Right.
brother, like, is loses his life, and me, the scum, survives. Like, what's
Right.
going on? How do you deal with that?
A lot of people don't. A lot of it's you
Right.
can't. What do I do?
And a lot of people don't, and they just, they go
Yeah.
they go into the cave, which is where I would have expected Rabbi Akiva to go, the mental, emotional cave, or maybe they become bitter and cynical,
Right.
and all this kind of nasty stuff. So Rabbi Akiva said, no, wait a second, God had me live. If God has me live, He must want me to do something. There's some reason for this.
Right.
So Rabbi Akiva analyzed it, and then the Talmud says Rabbi Akiva went to the south. His community, or this academy, was in the north,
Mm-hmm.
right? So the academy was in the north, and Rabbi Akiva went to the south, and he found and established 5 students.
Big difference.
24,000?
5.
5. Huge. Now, what do you get when you have 5 that you don't get when you have 24,000?
Well, number one, it's an odd number.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, one thing you get is you get 5 brave souls, because if I was one of these 5 guys, I'm thinking, maybe I'll go study with Rabbi Joseph over here, because Akiva's not doing too well with his students.
Right.
These are 5 brave guys. That's the
Right.
first thing.
Yeah, right. So when you got 24,000, what's the big, the number 24,000? 24,000!
This is the biggest guy in the world.
Right? Big, power. The problem with 24,000 is you don't have personal relationship.
True. It's impossible.
I don't care. I'm sure Rabbi Akiva was a great teacher, but 24,000, I can't see how much personal interaction he had with his 24,000 students. This would be like, a decent-sized college campus nowadays. 24,000. Would you expect that the chancellor of the university has contact with the students?
I don't know.
Come on.
Impossible. Right?
Yeah, maybe a handful of them that makes, but he can't really have a lot of personal contact. When you have 5, you can put yourself into 5 students. You pour yourself into 5 students.
That makes
you
sense.
get involved with every facet of their life. You know what's going on with them. You know where they came from. You study with them. You understand their habits and their mental difficulties, their emotional challenges. You know everything about them. You explain everything to each student in the way they need to hear it. When you go into 24,000, you give the lecture.
Right.
And, they'll have to do their best, right? But when you've got 5, you can explain it to this one this way and that one that way. You got time to do that.
So that was worth 24,000 people dying? There's got to be a little bit more to that.
So the message, this is what Rabbi Akiva understood.
Right.
Rabbi Akiva understood that what happened to these people? So it says they didn't respect each other.
Right.
Well, if they're studying the Torah and they missed somehow the message
Because that's a pretty important
of
one
respecting
in
each
Torah,
other,
right.
like, not only did they miss a central message, because there was another passage in the Talmud, and it says, Rabbi Akiva's credo was, V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, love your fellow as yourself.
So that was not getting across.
Absolutely not. It was just the opposite.
Right.
So Rabbi Akiva's very central credo was,
So it was a waste.
right, or perhaps, maybe that became Rabbi Akiva's credo, because maybe Akiva
Right.
Akiva understood that he wasn't teaching people the centrality of loving others as yourself. God created everyone, and you have to love the other as yourself.
As it was Hillel or whatever, that's like, it said that if you're teaching Torah 1 foot, that's the whole purpose of the Torah.
Yeah, right. That's right. So
If you miss that, you pretty much miss the whole thing.
right. So Hillel said, that which you hate, don't do unto other people. Rabbi Akiva quoted that same
Right.
teaching right from the Torah, and because it says in the Torah, you shall love your fellow as yourself. So Rabbi Akiva, that was his thing. He said, Zeh klal gadol b'Torah. This is the fundamental rule of the Torah. And obviously,
that.
he was teaching his students. Perhaps he was teaching them the academics. Perhaps he was teaching them sophisticated spiritual insights. He might have been teaching them about knowing God. But he wasn't teaching them that it all starts with loving your fellow. You have to love your fellow. And then he realized God took it all away. Now, why did God take it all away? Well, God knows why he took it all away. But I could speculate that God realized that these people are going to be the future of the Jewish people. These are going to be the teachers, the
Right.
rabbis, the leadership. And if the leadership is missing this central
Destroying
message,
all of Judaism.
then all of Judaism is going to go down the tubes.
Wow. So
Because
now I
the
get it
next
all.
generation is going to be perverted. It's not going to get it. And God says, no, I'm going to shut it. I'm just pulling the plug on this whole endeavor. But he left Rabbi Akiva. He said, Rabbi Akiva, you can learn a lesson from this. Now, I personally, I respect Rabbi Akiva so much because I think most people would just be totally devastated.
Well, it happens every day in life.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
and then not with that much of a significant loss. It happens
Right.
every day
Yeah,
for very minor things. Maybe not literally the parking spot, but almost.
sure.
I mean,
And certainly, how many people do you hear of? All of a sudden, you're like, some guy took his life.
Right.
Like this guy, middle-aged, 50, 60-year-old guy,
Right.
maybe, family, kids. All of a sudden, he took his life. Then you find out that there was problems in business, and he was
Right.
overextended, and da-da-da. Well, like, that's what happens. If you take your life,
right.
couldn't contend with it. I heard a story of a Hasidic rabbi who passed away, and he passed on the court and all of the followers. He appointed his son, before he died, he had appointed his son to succeed him in his death.
Right.
And the son took over. And they had a big synagogue, a central synagogue where all this Hasidic group used to meet, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them, families and everything like that. One day the rabbi walks in,
Right.
and there's no one there.
This is the son.
The son,
Right.
the new son who took over.
Right.
He walks into the synagogue, and there's a handful of people there. And he's like, where is everybody? So no one really wants to say anything to him. One of the guys is there. What goes over to him, he says, to tell you the truth, there's a new Hasidic rabbi, like down the block,
Right.
and a lot of the people are thinking that, they like the old rabbi, your father, but now there's you and there's the other guy, and a lot of the people just
Right.
decided that they like the other guy, and they left.
Right.
So the son was devastated, wiped out, absolutely, totally devastated. He said he went into a room and closed the door, and he was in the room for 3 days. He didn't come out for 3 days. Totally devastated. When he came out, after 3 days, he looked around, and someone came over to him and said, there's a small group of people here that stayed here. Those people stayed here for you. And all of a sudden he said to himself, the masses may have left me, but these people are here, stayed for me. I got to be here for them.
Wow.
and he started to pour his energies into the handful that remained behind, and in time, ultimately, built himself up a whole new Hasidic following. But what changed? What changed was people started to hear that he's here for them. He's here for those students. And then, everyone likes someone that's there for them. So people started to join, and he built himself up. Perhaps beforehand he had inherited it from the father, and maybe he actually thought they're here for me.
No, that's true.
That's true. And you know what? They walked away.
They left.
They left him. When he turned it around and he realized, no, I'm here for them, all of a sudden things started to grow again. And God taught him that. Well, thank God he didn't kill off thousands of people.
Right.
But, God taught him that message. It all starts with first understanding that this has been a message. A horrible message, but this is a message. And the proof is I'm still here. That means I have to do something about it. For Rabbi Akiva, he said this 24,000 thing, the numbers, the power, all that, it's not what it's about. It's about really what Judaism has always been about, quality over quantity.
Right.
And he found 5 students, and he made 5 very great students. Those students went on to perpetuate the Torah, disseminate it in Israel, and those students' names are mentioned in the Talmud prominently very often, and those students are really the ones that created the Judaism that was transferred to us today.
Very interesting, because we're probably all faced with, not exactly, but similar situations all the time. It's devastating, it's horrible, it's not working anymore, but there's obviously a message in there somewhere.
Yeah.
If we're able to figure out what the message is, and then we continue on, and we might find out that's what we were supposed to do in the first place.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
There you go.
So then you said, when is Lag BaOmer?
Lag BaOmer is the 33rd day of the Omer.
16 now?
Okay, so today it's very easy, by the way. Today is the 16th of April.
It's made it a lot easier for
And
me,
it's made it very, because the first day of the Omer was the first day of April. So for at least for the first 30 days, we're in pretty good shape, right? So today is day 16 of the Omer. So day 33 is coming up in another
right at the beginning of May,
17 days.
Yeah,
17 days, yeah. 2 weeks, 3 days. So that'll be 2 weeks from Thursday.
Easy.
Yeah, 2 weeks from Thursday.
So then I can start, partying and having fun again.
That's right. That's right. Shave, music, marriages, good times.
Good stuff. All right, good stuff. This is a good lesson today. There's a lot more to things when you actually explain them.
Yeah.
So
And that's the funniest thing. Huh?
guys might have to come back next week and hear more. He's got some good information.
All right.
Not bad.
Right.
All right. We'll see you next week.